My Neighbor Totoro movie review. So I suspect everyone knows this movie already, right? This is that really famous, iconic Japanese anime. Like, even if you've never watched it, you know who Totoro is, right? You've seen his face before, his picture before. And actually, when I was living in Japan, and I was living there from 2001 to 2009, I discovered that this, however popular this movie is in America, it was super popular in Japan. Like, you would just see Totoro everywhere, plush dolls, pictures. When I was teaching in the Japanese schools, this movie used to get shown to the children quite often. Like, if they were watching a movie during lunch, they put kind of this movie on. So I would see kind of bits and pieces of it everywhere when I was in Japan. It took me a while before I actually sat down and watched the whole thing. But eventually I did. Several people recommended it to me, and I really should have seen this ages ago. It's so iconic. It's interesting. For a movie so popular, yeah, I guess I was expecting kind of something more like Shrek or Pixar or kind of something like that. An animated movie, but kind of something that's playing towards more kind of adult sophistication or adult sensibilities. And it's interesting that this movie is not at all. This movie is really kind of purely a children's movie. Roger Ebert, I think, did a very good job of kind of putting his finger on what makes this movie so unique. So I'm going to take the liberty of quoting from his review here. He said, "Here is a children's film made for the world we should live in rather than the one we occupy. A film with no villains, no fight scenes, no evil adults, no fighting between the two kids, no scary monsters, no darkness before the dawn. A world that is benign. A world where if you meet a strange towering creature in the forest, you curl up on its tummy and have a nap. My Neighbor Totoro is based on experience, situation, and exploration, not on conflict and threat. This becomes clear in the lovely extended sequences involving Totoros, which are not mythical Japanese forest creatures, but were actually invented by Miyazaki just for this movie. There is none of the kids against adults plotting of American films. The family is seen as a safe, comforting haven. The father is reasonable, insightful, and tactful, accepts stories of strange creatures, trusts his girls, listens to explanations with an open mind. It lacks those dreary scenes where a parent misinterprets a well-meaning action and punishes it unfairly." So that 100% sums up the charm of this movie. It's also the problem with this movie, depending on what you want out of a movie. Nothing really happens in this movie. There's no drama, there's no stakes, there's no antagonists, there's no conflict, which made, at least for me, I don't know, I thought it got a little bit boring, to be honest. Now, that being said, again, I was in the Japanese schools when they were showing this movie to the children, and the children absolutely loved it. I remember a class of first graders just laughing so much watching this movie. So obviously this movie is doing great with its target audience. But it's not the kind of movie where you should go in as an adult and expect it to also cater to you as an adult, like you would with something like a Pixar movie or something. Although it was pointed out to me by a friend after I initially reviewed this movie, that, yeah, but Roger Ebert doesn't have any children, and he's an adult, and he loves this movie. So, yeah, maybe there is something to that. Maybe adults can just kind of enjoy the pure innocence of this movie as well. Regardless, At this point, this movie is so iconic that you probably should just see it just for the sake of seeing it if you haven't already. It's one of those movies.